why the Jaguar and why now? And I want to say that I am noticing in the collective this general trend, this current of awakening that is calling us as women, as healers, as leaders to speak up and to be even more in our truth than ever before. Every sister that I talk to, every person that's connected to their soul mission, it feels as if they're being asked to be radically honest with themselves and with their community about where they stand. And this activation can be scary. It can be scary to show up and to speak out against the things that you don't like, that you don't agree with, to be open about your opinions. And this is exactly why the Jaguar is coming in at this time. We are seeing the veils of illusion fall down. More and more, we are seeing through the Maya. It is collapsing in front of our eyes as we watch it happen on media, on TV, and also within our own lives and our personal relationships. And so we are being asked to rise into greater purpose, to have the courage of the jaguar, to follow our intuition, to listen to our inner compass of discernment, and to share our truth, our embodied wisdom as a way to help others, to lead others, to guide others also into their truth. The more we rise into our truth, the more we not only give ourselves permission to speak, but we also give permission for others. And why this is so needed is because many of us that have been part of maybe the new age movement, or for those of us that come from a more institutionalized form of religion, we are seeing that the old paradigm, this old way of thinking of love and light or false positivity or a pure like gaslighting isn't serving anyone any longer. We are seeing before our eyes not just the light, but the shadow and darker aspects of the creation of the journey of our soul evolutionary journey as a human collective. And so people are craving more depth, more truth. Not only that, but we are being constantly bombarded by propaganda on social media. Social media was created to help people connect, but now it's more of a marketplace. And I'll admit it too. I'm on here too, sharing what I'm doing and in service. And there is an agenda, right, or an intention. And so it can be really hard to discern what's true, what's for us, and what's not for us when we're not in our power, when we're open. And this can happen at any time in our journey where we aren't clear or we have doubt or we're still trying to figure out what our purpose is, where we begin to look outside of ourselves for truth. And then when we are being constantly fed all this information, this is why it's really essential that we cultivate our intuitive gifts, that we cultivate our ability to listen, that inner ear, that inner eye of perception that helps us see beyond what's being shown to us just on the surface. This is another reason why people are also turning toward ancestral healing modalities, ancient wisdom, ancient paths, plant medicine, energy medicine, because we as a soul, as a collective, are craving more depth. We are craving a system that connects us to something that is long, like has lived longer than just our life, right? Roots, ancestors, and these different paths can help our souls come back to our own ancestral roots. This is why we're seeing alchemy, the ancient sciences, shamanism, energy medicine, even the technology of prayer making a huge comeback, re-emerging. And I know you probably noticed this trend if you're on my page, if you're listening right now, because I know firsthand that you are working with these energies and you are showing up already in service to this collective shift that we're all on. And not only that, I know most of you on here that are listening right now are already facilitators, or you're artists, or you're space holders, or coaches. And I just want to share my definition of a coach is anyone that is helping guide others through transformation, or is helping others better their lives. And so there's different ways to that coaching can show up, but there is a version of coaching that is in integrity and that helps as people rise into their higher vision, their future vision as well. And the more that I go walk this path and also offer coaching myself, the more I'm finding that there is a world of possibility, especially once we make peace with the material realm and we start to recognize the power that money gives us as spiritual folk to enact, to impact, and create change in our world. And so I bring that up because I think that the traditional coaching industry kind of gets a bad rap and sales, etc., and for good reason, because before it was meant very much a numbers game, but there is an emerging consciousness and a lot of beautiful empowered spiritual beings that are also moving through that world and that are supporting others and rising up as well. But it all depends on where you are at the journey. Many times our spiritual awakening journey begins with a healing crisis, or yeah, some type of event or circumstance that forces us to wake up, to look at the world differently, to go heal ourselves, to go study, to learn, to expand our repertoire of knowledge. And so, if you're in that part of that journey, welcome. And if you're a little bit farther along, which I will be talking about as I connect these energies of the serpent, the jaguar, the eagle, condor, then you may be in a little bit higher level of the spiritual quest journey. But regardless, we're always cycling, and with each new level, there's a new devil. So, this shamanic map of these energies that I'm going to be sharing is going to apply at different stages of the spiritual journey. And so, as I was sharing, people are thirsty for truth. People are in deep need of healing. And most of all, people are need to be reminded of their true power, of their sovereignty, that the freedom that they have to create the lives that they desire, and that they have the power to make a difference, to change their lives and impact the world around them. I feel that the biggest illusion that we see is that, and that we experience as humans, I'm guilty of too, is that sometimes we feel like we can't do anything to impact or create change. And this is the biggest lie. This is what they want us to believe, and it can't be farther from the truth. If we can change ourselves, we can change our immediate environment, and that already is enough to change the world. See, if you imagine like the flower of life, it starts with just one circle, then there's two, and then it continues to grow and expand. So you can see that, you can imagine that each one of these rings is like a relationship or a person you're in a relation with. It can be a physical person or a spiritual being or per energy. And every time that we change our inner world, that outer world is also changed through that butterfly effect. And so, if you are here tonight, you have been guided by the spirit of the Jaguar to come here and to reconnect, to reawaken your soul purpose, your soul mission, and to connect to this energy, to this vision for the year to come, 2026. Because you are being called to the next level of your journey. And so, I want to explain a little bit about these different levels of the spiritual journey. The first level being the level of the spirit of the serpent. And then when we're in the level of the serpent, this is when our kundalini, right? This kundalini of energy of transformation, that serpentine uncoils and starts to awaken our spiritual experience, our spiritual lessons and initiations. And so when we're at the level of the serpent, we are not, I don't, yeah, we're kind of like at war with ourselves, not in a bad way, but we are awakening to the fact that we our beliefs, our behaviors, our patterns are something that we inherited, that we've been conditioned with by society, by our ancestors, and by our past. So if any we had any trauma in our childhood or other lifetimes, when we're living in the world of the serpent, we are reacting and behaving based on our patterns. And when we have that initial spiritual awakening, we start to recognize these patterns. We start to see how we may be actually in control of our journey. We may not have the power yet to actually change our behavior, but we're observing it. Our third eye has awakened, and we're starting to have this pattern recognition that is very crucial to awakening intuition and intuitive perception. And so, in the level of the serpent, we're reacting to the stimuli in our environment. If we're hungry, we eat. If we're horny, we have sex, or we do something sexual, etc. And we're also still healing very much our relationship with ourselves, with our inner masculine, with our inner feminine, healing our relationship with our parents, our biological parents, as well as our inner parent. And we're in the process of alchemizing these two energies of masculine and feminine, which all beings have, in order to birth the, the Christed consciousness, the Christed child that is us in our ascended self version. And so once we've initiated the spiritual journey, we've started to recognize some patterns, and perhaps we've actually now began to learn different practices and experiment with plant medicines, energy medicine, etc., you name it, and we begin to heal ourselves, actually break those patterns, transform our inner and outer reality. At that point in the healer's journey or the hero's journey, we are usually inspired to share our gifts with our community, to share what we've learned and the ways that we've healed with others. And that is when we are initiated into the level of the Jaguar. So, again, the level of the serpent, we're mastering self. And then once we graduate to a certain degree, because we're always going to be learning, growing, spiraling, ascending, at that point, then we graduate into the Jaguar when we start to walk our path and start to serve. And I know that you guys know this, but the spiritual journey isn't linear. It's always cyclical. We are on this spiral that is ascending, and sometimes it's descending. I'm not gonna lie. Different circumstances are gonna life in our life are also gonna make us descend in our soul evolutionary journey. So it's not guaranteed that we're gonna ascend. And actually, my belief is that in order to ascend, we also have to descend at the same time in equal measure. So you might have heard of the quote, like the deeper you root, the greater your branches, or vice versa. You want to root to rise. And you'll need both of these energies in order to really solidify the purpose, your power, your destiny that you're here to live in your lifetime. And once you emerge into this level of the Jaguar, right? It's the middle world in Andean cosmology. Now you are interacting with others. And when you interact with others and you begin to walk your path and be in service with others, well, there's a whole new set of challenges that come into play. And these are relationship dynamics that come in, right? This is when we go through another layer of healing that involves us strengthening and connecting to our inner power, really building and understanding our self-worth, as well as how to respect and honor other people's opinions, other people's differences, and how to help and guide others when maybe they're acting from their shadow as well. And as a facilitator, as someone that's been on this path for a long time, it is normal for us to face disagreements, to have moments when we work with others and we're not fully understanding each other. Maybe the energies aren't feeling aligned, or there's resistance, or like I said, the shadows showing up, the inner child, there's fear, there's sabotage. Um, there's all kinds of things that can arise. And as a leader, if are scared to be the bigger person, to speak up first, we're going to get swallowed, and we're going to fall right back into that level of the serpent, where we're once again acting from our unconscious patterns, acting from the wounded self, or that little child that is just desiring, needing a higher self-worth. And so the Jaguar is here in these times and came to me very clearly in my last retreat, because it's time for us to walk with bravery, with that courage to be the leader, to speak up, to be vulnerable. And essentially, the more vulnerable we are, the more we acknowledge our fears, our insecurities, and we talk about it, the more we slay that shame that we carry around being vulnerable, around being human, because we actually in fact all have this. And the more we talk about it, the more we understand this is just a normal part of the journey and the initiation. And I feel that in the last couple of weeks, we as a collective are breaking through this glass wall of separation that we've been feeling. And it's actually through speaking about our insecurities, about our vulnerabilities, about our fears, about those things that we hide most, that actually bring us into the closest kind of connection with other humans. It brings us into our humanness, and it makes us relatable. And when we are able to be vulnerable with others, and others are able to be vulnerable with us, and this is part of being a leader. And so the Jaguar represents this energy of courage. The Jaguar walks in the night and has this night vision, right? And we can think about our intuition in that unseen intelligence that we have as the night. It's represented by the energy of the feminine, right? The darkness, as a night, as an unseen. And so when we awaken the Jaguar, or when we start to connect to the Jaguar, it means our intuitive gifts are awakening and are gaining strength. And it takes immense courage to follow our intuition, especially at the beginning, because we don't actually have any physical evidence that is showing us like this is the way that we should go, or this is the decision we should make, etc. And so we have to follow that gut feeling. We have to follow our heart. We have to follow that intuitive insight or message that we're hearing. And that can be really scary at first. So it takes immense amount of courage and bravery. And I say that because, you know, I'd love to say that confidence is something that we can master, but with every new level, there's going to be a need for more courage, more bravery, because each new level, as we grow, as we expand, as souls, has this new set of challenges. And when we're challenged, when we're being initiated, we're being tested, that's when all of our patterns come back up. And the ones that we have mastered, we see that we don't actually react or behave the ways that we did in the past. And the ones that we haven't mastered yet are there once again for us to see, to love, to witness, and hopefully integrate back into wholeness. And so, yeah, just before we move into a prayer for us to really connect to the spirit of the Jaguar together, I just want to hear from you guys. If you already know kind of where your heart, where your intuition is guiding you toward or to in 2026, where you're being called to be of service in. And or if you have like a subconscious fear, insecurity that you know is holding you back, that you would like for me to, bring some energies and some support to throughout this call. And so I'll just give you a little moment to tune in. as I said, whether you already kind of know where your heart is guiding you toward in 2026, where you're being called to be of service, and or if you have any subconscious fears or blockages that are holding you back from this greater purpose. And you can just drop it in the chat or in the comments. And it's not no worries. You can let this question marinate. There's some more space for that. So just taking a moment to drop into the heart, to close the eyes, take a deep breath in and exhale, letting go. Visualizing yourself having tree roots that ground you into the earth, tree branches that extend out of your heart and connect you to the heart of the sky, the cosmos, and dropping into your heart of hearts, the center of your center. Together, I just want us to take a moment to give thanks, to be in gratitude to Great Spirit, all that is, Holy Mother, Father, God, Goddess, for bringing us together tonight in this moment, whether we're watching this video live or the replay. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this opportunity to connect in community with other souls on this soul journey that we're on, guided by, initiated by, called by, here by the spirit of the Jaguar. Thank you, thank you, thank you to this energy, this ancestor that has walked this planet and has been in our universe for thousands, perhaps millions of years. This energy of the feline that teaches us how to walk with strength, how to walk connected to our torso with all four legs, hands, feet, claws, grounded on the earth, firmly planted like a table, balanced, strong. We ask this energy to continue to guide us forward from this moment on. Welcome, blessing, and giving thanks for this solstice portal and the energies that we are entering in this next season, depending where we find ourselves in the world. May the Jaguar guide us through this summer or through this winter. May the Jaguar guide us into discovering what our truest and highest purpose is. May it align us to our destiny. And may it remind us and remind everyone here on this call of their gifts. Spirit of the Jaguar, please bless each one of these beings with the spiritual strength, the courage, the precision to act when necessary and to rest when is necessary as well. And please, Great Spirit, Spirit of the Jaguar, I ask you that you support everyone on this call and integrating this shamanic map, this compass, this energy that we are awakening on this in this evening in a good way for the highest and greatest good and the highest and greatest good of all. So thank you, thank you, thank you to the north, the south, the east, the west, the earth, the water, the air, the fire, the serpent, the jaguar, the hummingbird, the eagle, the condor. Thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you, Iksh. Thank you, Otorongo, Puma, protector of the earth, protector of the sacred sites, this energy that also represents the fuerza femenina, the feminine force of love, of protection, and of the earth and of sacredness. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us here tonight. And so I also want to take a moment to introduce myself. I am Carla Jeanette. I know some of you know me and are getting to know me. And I'm really excited about sharing this shamanic map because this came to me over 8 years ago when I began feeling called to work with plant medicine, starting with cacao. And actually, I just want to share that I'm someone that was not born into like a healthy home, into wealth, and none of that. I was born, my mom was 18 when she had me. She did her best to make it work. At one point, she remarried, and there was alcoholism, domestic abuse very much present in my adolescence. And so from a young age, I learned I learned not to trust God or not to trust the universe because of the trauma that I was experiencing. And that eventually led to me exploring plants, substances, you name it, in order to try to heal myself. I was searching for medicine in all the wrong places. But there was an aspect of my being that I feel I still connect to, which was this part of me that was curious, like a cat, and didn't shy away from that which was occult or mysterious. Eventually, after I graduated college, I started traveling right away. In the Mayan calendar, my Nawal is that of the traveler. So it's always been part of my spiritual soul's journey to travel. It's also the Nawal of the teacher and of the path itself, the spiritual path. So I started walking my spiritual path from a very young age, and that was also through my travels that I got to experience many different lineages, cultures. I traveled to Thailand, I traveled to Burma, Australia, um, yeah, Cambodia to begin with, then Mexico, and then the Americas, and so forth, India. And when I went to India is when I had, right before I went to India, around 2012 is when I had like my first spiritual awakening. I remember so clearly, I read The Power of Now. And before that book, I was like totally in ignorant bliss, enjoying myself, partying, not really caring about my purpose or my life. And then I read that book and it messed up my whole life because I remember I began to question everything. And no longer was I like at ease or content with my situation. My higher self had turned on, had come online, and I started to question my sanity and what I was doing. And I was no longer, I started to not have fun anymore. And I would go to these parties and I would take substances, and I was confused because what once used to help me numb and feel better wasn't working anymore. And then after that, it took me years to get clean and to completely transform my life. But throughout that time, I actually did go to India. I got my yoga teacher training. I found out about chakra psychology, the chakras, energy medicine, and I had studied psychology and I was pre-med in university. But when I found Ayurveda, the medical science of yoga and of India, I became deeply passionate about our ability to heal through energy medicine. And not only that, but our ability to prevent illness through yoga and through these holistic practices. So I went really deep into the chakras and understanding them and the patterns and the link between this Eastern medicine and the Western medicine of psychology. And I eventually realized that my life was a manifestation of the energy that I had encoded in my energy body, in my chakras, right? Because of my karma, because of my past life trauma, because of my childhood. And this was a very crucial moment in which I took my power back from being a victim and recognized that I was a creator in my reality and that I had the power to transform that. It still took many years of healing, of integration work, of messy, inspired, aligned action, and many errors and many mistakes to change my life. But eventually, after a few years and after getting my Reiki training and continuing just to lean into this intuitive guidance and to my guides that started to show up, one of them being, Jeshua, Christ consciousness, my life did start to change. Eventually, I left that toxic relationship where I was in for many years in my 20s. And I started my life over again with nothing. I came back from Cambodia after traveling 3, 4 years after I graduated college. And I started my life again back home in San Diego. And this is when my this next level began, where I felt called to working with cacao, with the elders. When I attended my first fire ceremony, and something about cacao really inspired me to create ritual in my life and to live in a ritual way. And so that led me down to Guatemala, where I started studying with the Mayans, and I also learned about Andean cosmology and the medicine wheel of the power animals of the serpent, the jaguar, hummingbird, eagle, and condor. The yoga teacher training that I went to was a 300-hour shamanic yoga teacher training that was based on the one of the courses by Alberto Villoldo, where he goes through these four winds, these four powers, and something about connecting to the medicine wheel, to connecting to ritual, to prayer, really just brought me back home. And I knew from that moment forward that I wanted to share with others the medicine of ceremony and of ritual. And at that time, cacao, which I didn't know, I wasn't ready to accept that I had a greater mission with other plant medicines. And eventually, after a couple years, after sharing cacao, coming back to my community, sharing about chakras and leading people through these transformational workshops where we did a type of like shamanic kundalini dance. And I taught people about the chakras and energy. Plant medicine started showing up my door, first with kambo and then with ayahuasca. And that's when I felt this deeper calling to come to Peru. I started working with plant medicines, um, I knew that I wanted to return to the source of where these medicines come from and learn from the original wisdom keepers. I also had experienced my first ceremony of ayahuasca in the United States, and I had a pretty bad experience, a pretty big ego death. And in part, I do know it was the medicine initiating me, but it was also another part in that I didn't feel that the space was energetically held the way that I needed, the way that my spirit team, my ancestors needed. So after having that not so good experience, the good that came out of it was that I knew I had to go to Peru. And I just knew that I had to go to Peru to learn more about ayahuasca and the medicine from, and get to as close to the source as possible. And so in 2019, I went to Peru for the first time. And literally within a week of landing in Peru, I met my first teacher. And it was through actually meeting a sister and talking about these power animals and how curious I was about Andean cosmology, cosmology being the understanding of the universe, that this woman was like, I think I know who to recommend you to. And she recommended me to my first teacher, Zadia Mia, who was an anthropologist and who was also very passionate about shamanism, about art, and about these animals, and about sacred sites and the symbols that he was studying and writing books about from in the on these sacred sites. So these animals, right? And so I landed in Peru. I met this man, and he began to teach me more about these power animals, and we got to travel together to different sacred sites and do rituals activating the gifts of these different animals in different locations through different plant medicines and through different rituals. And what I felt and what I still feel was that if I was going to work with plant medicine that came from South America, Peru, the Amazon, then it was really important for me to learn about the the ancestral spirits and the shamanic guardians of those lands if I'm going to be working with the medicines of those lands. And so that is when I officially began my apprenticeship and my study of the plant medicine of ayahuasca. And I started studying consciousness now on this new level. I had this first understanding of the chakra system. And it's really interesting. Once I learned about the power animals in this deeper way, and I started integrating these codes with this new teacher, and also kind of taking what I have learned from Alberto Villoldo in the Four Winds course and adding to it my personal now embodied wisdom, I started to realize that there was this like connection between the two. And I thought of how like, okay, when I was on this journey of the serpent, I was awakening my chakras. I was understanding my patterns, my subconscious, unconscious beliefs and conditioning, and I was working with the medicines to shed that. And on this journey of self-realization or self-mastery. But what happens is that when I get to Peru and I start to learn about these other energies like the jaguar, the condor, the eagle, something that my teacher installed in me and activated was that the jaguar is this energy of the warrior. And what happens is that so the serpent, I'm just going to back up a little bit, is the guardian of the inner world, of the underworld. Underworld being underground. So that which connects us to our ancestors, our roots, our DNA, right? These spiraling, these coils of energy, like the root system of a tree. And also our inner serpent. So underground, inner world. It's what's unseen. And so he was sharing with me how, and we were discussing how it's like when we're on this journey of self healing, sometimes we get stuck in the underworld, in the inner world, when we're too focused on our personal healing. And we actually need sometimes to step out of that healing journey kind of addiction is to step into greater service and to just start walking our path with the gifts that we have, with what we were given by life and the circumstances of our upbringing, etc., and begin to share what we have, our gifts, with courage. And so it's like when we graduate that journey of just being focused on our own healing and we begin to want to serve others and we do it even if we're not perfect yet, that's when we begin the initiation that the Jaguar wants to bring us into. And what I started just seeing was like if we had this, like imagine we have this totem, this, well, not imagine, we do, but we are this totem. Well, we can imagine that the journey when we're on, like when we're really focused on creating safety for ourselves, when we're still mastering our desires, when we're still learning who we are, our identity on as players of the game of this human experience, these lower chakras, the first one to kind of the beginning of the third, we are in the level of the serpent. And once we have kind of gotten our bearings, figured out how to take care of our basic needs, we're understanding how our desires work, how to behave, in right relationship to our desires, heal our addictions, heal our unconscious patterns, beliefs. Then we start to gain a better understanding of who we are, of our identity, and we start to align our divine will, or our personal will, our ego with divine will. And at that point, that's when we rise into the level of the Jaguar, which is the ruler of the heart space. And it also connects to the solar plexus and the throat chakra, because this is one of the mantras that I have carried with me since the beginning of my empowerment journey, is that when we speak our truth, we give ourselves power. So speak, throat chakra, heart, truth, throat, solar plex, power, right? So these three work together to support us in walking the path of the here and now, the walking the middle world, the path of the Jaguar that is in relationship to others, because we are going to be constantly refining how we speak, how we relate, and how we also see ourselves and value ourselves and recognize our own power, our own self-worth, especially when we start to come up against other energies, test initiations as well. And so these teachings have led me to develop my online mystery school, and also I lead retreats where I teach about these power animals, how we can work with them and use them as a compass or a shamanic map to support us in understanding where we are on a soul evolutionary journey, and also to kind of witness and see how we are behaving with the world or interacting with the world. To finish, the third energy or the higher energy is the upper world, and that's ruled by the condor, the eagle, and also the hummingbird in a different way, but I'll explain the hummingbird energy later. And so the condor, the eagle, can be seen as the energies that are ruling our third eye, our crown chakra, that connect us to our higher self, higher guides, ascended masters, ascended ancestors, and are supporting us, guiding us toward this future higher version of ourself that we know we are here to embody. And they connect us to the past and also the future. So we can think about the energy of the condor or the eagle being our inner crone, our inner wise woman, our inner medicine man, inner medicine woman that can see the big picture, that can zoom out and see how our past, our present, and our future are all connected. And it's this energy that connects us to that vision, our bigger why that is guiding us in toward our highest alignment, toward our highest purpose and destiny. And what I love about this word destiny is that destiny is like what our soul is destined to do, like what we have to do, what we're meant to do. And many times we talk about the word purpose and we think about, like, okay, this is what we are inspired by, or this is what brings us joy. But destiny, and when in relation to purpose, kind of brings in all of our life experience and all of the uniqueness of our personal journey and activates us into this greater purpose that's going to look completely different than anyone else's destiny. Your purpose is unique to you. And now, especially in these times when we're being asked to come on fully online, I was speaking about this earlier in my stories. It's like right now, our purpose isn't just going to be us fitting into a mold of one version or one dimension of our purpose, our personality. Our true purpose is going to include all versions of ourselves, all of our dimensions. And like this has been a very strong key, and coda has come in for me personally just since the last time, this last trip to the jungle, because the last season I was really focusing on marketing and business and teaching other facilitators, healers, how to market themselves, how to do business. And I kind of put this online mystery school on hold. And then I get to the jungle and oh my God, ayahuasca grandmother had some lessons for me. She brought me into this space of deep self-inquiry where I was being asked, who am I? Who are you? Who are you? Beyond what you say or what you're portraying on social media, who are you? And the Jaguar came forth to remind me, like, I am a medicine woman. I have all of this embodied wisdom that I have collected, that I have lived, that has supported me to getting to where I am now. And it was very apparent that I cannot ignore that any longer. And that this version of me that I'm aligning to for 2026 and beyond is going to need to work with all of these dimensions: the medicine woman, the businesswoman, the lover, the artist, the healer, the woman, right? The human, the child. And so when we take all of our life experience, right? All of the energy, all of the lessons we learn when we're in the world of the serpent, when we are activated into our purpose, and then we learn more lessons by walking our purpose and test the challenges that arise, at some point too, we also graduate from the Jaguar into the level of the condor, where now we have a greater understanding of ourselves in relation to others and in relation to our future self, and we can guide others even better. And so traditionally, we didn't really graduate into that level until we're like elders, I would say like 45, 50, and beyond. For example, in Aztec and Mayan cultures, when you turn 52, this marks that you are now entering the stage of being like a wise man or wise woman, elder, counsel for your community. And that's because you've mastered your relationship self. Two, you've mastered relationship to other. Traditionally, it would have been like a marriage to a partner, and then you had family, and so you understood what it like was like to govern your relationship, your partnership, your family. And then beyond that, you begin to learn how to govern or support, counsel the greater community. But right now, it's like all hands on deck. And we can, even if we're not an elder, we can connect to the future version of ourselves to receive information about how to best align our actions for toward our highest destiny. And so I want to just introduce or share that I will be offering my shamanic activation or shamanic powers activation course once again online to teach about these energies in a deeper way. And in this course, I will teach you how to invoke these energies, how to work with them to support your clients, your students, and participants of your services on how to move through these energies and how to also call in these energies in ceremony so that they can support you and help you navigate the plant medicine realm or the spiritual realms, psychedelic realms as well. And the part two of that course will be how to also will be me teaching you how to guide shamanic journeys, which we will have a little shamanic journey before we end this master class tonight so you can get a feel of what that looks like and feels like. So if that interests you, I will be sharing more information at the end, and or you can write to me or post comment and I can send you that link. And so before we begin the shamanic journey, I just wanted you to think about your life and what everything that I've shared. And once again, I'm going to ask you the question that I asked you at the beginning. Like, what is the unique gift? What is the unique mission or purpose that you're being activated in right now, or you're being initiated in right now? Why do you think the Jaguar is showing up? And I want you to go a little bit deeper because sometimes we can think, oh, yeah, our purpose is to, yeah, serve, like, for example, serve cacao medicine. But actually, we're being called to something more than that. And like on the surface, it's the practice of the cacao ritual or the cacao ceremony. But what's the deeper purpose or the deeper destiny that I'm here to walk and embody is actually being a leader, speaking up, speaking about the things that other people aren't speaking about, or creating spaces for the voice of the unheard to be spoken. And so, just for a moment right now, I invite you to just consider your life experiences, consider the stories, the trauma, the past that you came from. Consider also the gifts that you have been awakening, you've already awakened, or you know are awakening inside of you. And also think about how you're being tested, how you're being challenged right now in your relationships when it comes to speaking your truth, honoring your truth. And notice or listen to hear if there's something deeper that your soul is here to share with the world. Beautiful. And then lastly, before we go jump into the shamanic journey meditation, I also want to just um, invite you, if you're also feeling called to go deeper into your spiritual path as a plant medicine facilitator or shamanic energy medicine facilitator into my one-to-one mentorship container. So this is a more exclusive offering that I'm opening up right now, and I'm not sure when I'm going to open it up again, but for the next 3 weeks it's open. And this is a more intensive, more intimate container for those that are wanting to step into more of this type of facilitation, that are wanting mentorship guidance. So one that can support them with a map, right? It's like we all have our own way, we all have our own gifts, and our higher self is guiding us toward a certain destination. But imagine you arrive to this new island and you're trying to find something, find this place or this person without a map. It's gonna take you a lot longer. You're gonna have a lot more errors. You're gonna make a lot more mistakes. You're gonna have a lot more challenges versus having a map. And that's what guides, that's what mentors can provide, is a map. So, and some tools like a compass, so that you can find your way with a little bit more ease and a little bit more grace. And I'll also say a little caveat is that it's normal on the spiritual path to rub up against mentors, teachers that you don't like, that you don't resonate. And I would even say that sometimes these teachers are the ones that test us the most, that initiate the most, and actually call us forward into our leadership the most. At the beginning of my journey, I had several teachers that were out of alignment, out of integrity. I shared about that first ayahuasca ceremony and how it went really bad, and I wasn't treated well, and the facilitator said something pretty nasty. I don't even know if he realized it, but it definitely impacted my experience. And in these other cases, these teachers cross boundaries with students, things around ethics that from the beginning of my journey really showed me like that sacred and safe space was something that I was here to teach and embody to the best of my ability. Because I experienced the opposite. I've experienced boundaries being crossed by teachers, relationships that shouldn't have existed, energies that should have been at play. And through witnessing that which I disagreed with, that which rubbed up against my personal values, was exactly what I needed to inspire me to go deeper and study more, and also create those safe and sacred spaces, in the case for me, for women to experience plant medicine and to work with teachers that actually could honor and uphold and also create a good distance and boundary between these women in these very vulnerable spaces. And so, yeah, sometimes our teachers, even the ones we don't like, are here to initiate us as well, and to help us realign to our true purpose, to our truth, and to what we're here to birth in the world. And so, if that interests you, also, you can write to me privately and we can talk about that. We can jump on a call. It's by application, but that is available. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know. So, at this moment, I'm going to invite you to drop into a meditation. I'm going to be guiding a shamanic journey. And we're going to be, going into the subconscious realms to connect to our intuition, to our soul, to our guides in a deeper way. And so, shifting gears, I invite you to find a comfortable seated or lying down position. Grab my instruments. And so, closing the eyes, taking a deep breath in through the nose, I invite you to exhale, relaxing, letting go. Inhaling deeply and exhale, releasing with a sound or a sigh. Inhaling one more time, filling up all of the body with air. And exhale, letting go. And now visualizing yourself lying outside in a meadow of grass. It's still daylight, so you feel the sun shining through your eyelids while your eyes are closed. You feel the gentle breeze brushing up against your skin. You feel the dampness of the earth beneath you, the soil holding you. And in the distance, you hear the sound of the water. You can hear a creek passing by. You connect to the sound of the drum, the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and your own heartbeat, all coming into one rhythm, one beat. And it's as if your soul stands up, leaving the physical body behind it in the meadow. You see yourself rising, and your body has fallen asleep, and your soul begins to walk. You start walking through the meadow toward a forest in the distance. As you approach the entrance of the forest, you are greeted by the jaguar. The jaguar starts to guide you into the forest. Day turns into night. You follow the jaguar with confidence, trusting this familiar, noble guardian that has always been with you. You look up at the sky, you see the stars, eventually reaching an opening in the jungle, in the forest. And you see that there is a sacred site that looks like an ancient temple made of stone. You decide to walk around it, taking in all of its beauty from the outside. The jaguar guides you around its edges, back to the entrance. And it's as if the jaguar nudges you to go inside. You walk through the threshold, entering the temple. And in the center, you see a large table. This table has what looks like a pool inside of it with water. And as you approach it, you realize there's an opening at the top of the temple, which the moon shines through down into the water, creating a reflection. You lean over the table, over the altar, and you see yourself in the mirror, in this reflection. You look into your eyes, and it's as if your eyes can speak a message to you now that you are meant to hear in this moment. What is this message? You give thanks for this message. You give thanks to the moon. You give thanks to the sacred site, the sacred temple. And you turn around, making your way back to the entrance, the door you came in. As you leave the temple, you once again find yourself with the Jaguar. It's still night, so the Jaguar is here to guide you. You start to walk back into the forest, and you realize that the Jaguar is now taking you somewhere different. Along the way, you see other creatures, animals of the night. You curious about them just as much as they are curious about you. But because you're with the Jaguar, you know you are safe. So you trust and you continue walking deeper and deeper into the thick of the forest. Eventually you see a clearing, and you see a waterfall. Around this waterfall, there's places to sit. And of course, your curiosity brings you closer to the water once again, taking in this beautiful image of this waterfall in the middle of the jungle. As you sit down, from the forest, a shadow appears. You notice there's a new being in this space. This being starts to approach you, walking closer and closer. Eventually, taking a seat right next to you. This being takes you by the hand and sits with you, transmitting a healing energy, transmitting a healing message to you now. Only you know what this energy means or what it feels like. The being then asks you to look into the waterfall, and once again you look at the reflection of the waterfall, and this time you see an image like a photo or a movie playing before your eyes in the waterfall. What is this image that you are being shown? You give thanks to this being, the spirit. This being rises to leave you and also says goodbye, returning back to the forest. The Jaguar approaches you and nudges you with its head. It's time to walk back. So you begin to follow the Jaguar through the jungle, through the forest. This time night turns into day, to dawn, to dusk. And you begin to reach the edge of the forest. The Jaguar says goodbye, and you begin to walk on your own through the meadow, back toward your physical body. Eventually you see your body lying on the grass, peaceful, rested, and your soul merges with your physical body once again. And there you are, lying on the moist soil, feeling the gentle breeze of the air, feeling the light of the sun shining through your eyes, and hearing the sound of the water of the creek in this short distance. And so now, before returning back to the 3D, the dimension that we are here in now, before returning back to your room or wherever you find yourself in, I invite you to just be with the eyes closed. Remember the physical space that you find yourself in, what you're wearing, the furniture in your room, in your home. And when you're ready, you can begin to bring some gentle movement to your hands, your feet, your head, rising back into the space. And so now at this time, if you have a journal, you can take some notes, or if you just want to drop some notes in the comment box, or if you feel like speaking, coming on the call, showing your face and sharing about what came to you, or if you have any questions about today's or tonight's discussion, I want to open up the space for some Q&A or for some integration of this call. Of course, not necessary at all. I did have some questions from some people that weren't able to make the call that I wanted to share and touch on. So while you gather your thoughts or you take some notes, drink some water, I just wanted to share a former client of mine shared that in ceremony, the Jaguar appeared to him, and it was in this moment of self-doubt that we all experience, when we're in leadership, when we're being called to greater service, to greater leadership, when we have to go against the grain and perhaps speak up or say something that is going to make someone uncomfortable, maybe even ourselves uncomfortable. This is precisely what the Jaguar wants to support us in, is in being our most authentic, raw, true version of ourselves. Obviously, or not, maybe it's not so obvious, but it should be obvious that when we are in leadership, when we are space holders, it's going to be important that we communicate with compassion, with kindness, what is necessary. But that point of what is necessary, if someone is entrusting us with that leadership, then if we have to speak up on something that we're seeing and that can support them, we are being guided to give ourselves that permission. Also, to give ourselves permission as guides and leaders to also be imperfect, to make mistakes, because that's what actually makes us the most human and the most humble, right? To try to be perfect is not the best teaching, because then, in fact, rather than empowering others to be themselves, to be true, to be honest, to be human, it can send this message of, unless you're good enough, unless you get it right, unless you're perfect enough, that's only when you're able to be in leadership. And so as leaders, we get to also be messy as well. And yes, it takes courage to be the way shower. It's not going to always be the case. Obviously, we want to do our best and not, if we can prevent errors, we will. But We are going to, because it's going to happen. It's just natural if we're being ourselves, if we're being honest to the path, if we're being humble enough to listen, to try new things. And of course, if we're gonna like explore a new path or a new skill, we're gonna pick up the guitar, sing, you name it, we're gonna try something new. We're gonna have those moments of awkwardness. We're gonna feel resistance. It's gonna be an edge for us. And only when we release that fear of making a mistake, the fear of fucking it all up, getting it wrong, that's when we become truly liberated. That was something I had to go through as a facilitator, is like having to make mistakes and going through the motions of like, oh, what happens when I make mistakes? What if someone doesn't love me or what I'm offering or what I'm teaching? Guess what? It's not the end of the world. We all have a right to have our way of doing things. And especially if we're doing it, from our heart with integrity, we're not, hurting anyone else. We're just being ourselves. And if someone doesn't like it or it doesn't resonate with someone, that's okay. We don't have to be liked by everyone. And because I had that fear, right, of not being liked or of like a student, etc. Yeah, and being at the end of a program, being not happy, a client not being happy, right? The customer not being happy from old programming of being in customer service. When I finally went through that initiation of that just happening, it didn't matter what I did with this client. I tried my best, I even like abandoned and like myself and like let my, kind of wasn't authentic with my truth. That person walked all over me. It didn't matter what I did, how much I gave, how much I served. The person wasn't resonating. And once I moved through that and still was like, no, spirit, great spirit, to the medicine, I'm going to be on this path, whether you like it or not. If I don't walk away from this experience with my tail between my legs, it's because I'm really in it, and I don't care if I'm going to make the mistakes, because I'm here to learn, to grow, and mistakes are part of the growth process. And actually, it's our mistakes that usually initiate and teach us the most than if it's all like rainbows and butterflies and going smoothly. So I want to share this little anecdote for my friend that asked this question. It's like, in leadership, when we're rising in our gifts, in our power, in our influence, in community, we're going to rub up against others. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to say the wrong thing. We're going to choke on the guitar. And guess what? We're still going to be standing. We're still going to be alive on the other side of that. And thank you. I have a comment. Thank you for all your hard work and your guidance. Had a lot of insightful moments while listening to your talk and understanding of deeper concepts of self-knowledge. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. So also just seeing Angel is being called to work with elders in person, especially out west. And she also had taken the 9-month course of the 4 Winds in 2020. I'm saying, love this, how you tie this on. Yes. It's like there's this book that this amazing teacher inspired me with, but I took it on my own to go deeper and go study this and create my own way of working with these energies and my own style of embodiment with these shamanic gifts that takes these teachings a bit deeper. And actually, the way he works with it in the medicine wheel that he works with and the directions, they're not wrong, but I work with them a little bit different in that once I came here and I started working with the Keto people and I got initiated, I learned how. So the serpent is the ruler of the underworld, but it's actually connected to the element of water, which I think in the book it's connected to the element of earth, but it's actually connected to the element of water. And we think about where we come from, the womb, the cosmic water. Well, then it makes a lot more sense why the underworld or the serpent energy, our roots, our ancestors, our DNA, comes from that element. And then the Jaguar is the ruler of the earth. And because I have studied with the Mayans, the Queros, also the Mexica and Tolteca Anahuac, it's interesting because, yes, in the Aztec Mayan culture, the jaguar is actually called by the name of Ix. And Ix is the word for also the Mother Earth, for the energies of the earth, of the jungle, of the forest. And it's the jaguar is seen as the guardian and protector of the earth, of the sacred sites. And I had a really powerful ayahuasca ceremony once where I was meditating in front of the statue of um, the Virgin Mary, the Virgin of Guadalupe, Mother Mary. I was in Guatemala at the time. And as I was like meditating and focusing on this image, the statue of the Virgin of Guadalupe, the jaguar came forth, and I had this very visceral experience and vision of how Mother Earth, Tonantzin, the Virgin of Guadalupe, is a jaguar, fierce mother, which definitely, if you connect to Kali energy, you can see how the feminine is this force of nature that, while on its light side, yes, is playful and sweet and unconditional loving, it also has this dark feminine power that is like fierce. And if we think about like a mother lion or jaguar and like how to what extreme she'll go to protect her cubs and her kin, it's like that is the energy of the mother as well. And so I also feel that this energy of the jaguar also connects us to this energy of Mother Earth that is, yeah, a consciousness that is coming a lot online for all of us, especially as guardians and stewards of the earth and plant medicines. And yeah, I think these last few moments, if there's any questions, I can answer. Otherwise, it's getting pretty late. And so I want to honor your time, my time, just to give thanks to my teachers, give thanks to the medicines of ayahuasca, cacao, give thanks for these sacred lands that I'm in Peru, the Quero people, the Mayans, the Shipibos, the Mexica, Aztec, Anahuac, the tribes of the north, Lakota, Dakota, Sensei, Navajo, Sui, Kumeyaay, and all of the sacred tribes, indigenous wisdom keepers, stewards of the earth, these powers, these animals, these forces of nature, the serpent, the jaguar, the hummingbird, the eagle, and the condor, giving thanks to all of these energies for supporting me, for supporting you tonight on this call and in the year of 2026. And yeah, giving thanks to the earth, the water, the air, the fire, the north, the south, the east, the west, closing the ceremony on heaven as we are on earth, and the quantum as well as the physical. And yeah, stay tuned or write to me if you're curious and interested in learning more about how to connect and awaken these shamanic gifts and powers of these animals so that you can also work with them in your own practice. And if you're interested in learning how to guide shamanic journeys and or interested in mentorship when it comes to walking this path of being a plant and earth medicine steward, please reach out to me. It has been such a gift to share these codes with you, and also, step into my own courage as I walk this path as well. And I look forward to seeing more of you on these calls. I'm really being guided to be sharing more and more online through these types of free events, YouTube, as well as my private events. And yeah, I'm really excited for what's to come and to witness more of these jaguars coming online, because Jaguar is the spiritual warrior, the warrior of the heart. And as a jaguar, it's one of my roles is to awaken and help other jaguars come online and become also illuminated and empowered to walk their path and to claim their destiny. So thank you so much, everyone. And if you're catching the recording, drop a comment, a like as well. I want to hear from you too. And yeah, just thank you so much and have a beautiful night. And happy solstice. Yes.